A piece of me wanted to die, Reginald Fogarty. Australia's climate is mainly governed by its size and the hot, sinking air of the subtropical high-pressure belt. Australia has a wide variety of climates due to its large geographical size. The most significant part of Australia is desert or semi-arid. Only the southeast and southwest corners have a temperate climate and moderately fertile soil. The northern part of the country has a tropical climate, varying between grasslands and deserts. Australia holds many heat-related records. The continent has the hottest extended region year-round, the areas with the hottest summer climate, and the areas with the highest sunshine duration. Temperatures in the country rose by approximately 0.7 degrees Celsius between 1910 and 2004, following an increasing trend of global warming. Overnight minimum temperatures have warmed more rapidly than daytime maximum temperatures in recent years. The late 20th century warming has been largely attributed to the increased greenhouse effect. 80% of the land receives less than 600 millimeters of rainfall annually, and 50% has even less than 300 millimeters. As a whole, Australia has a deficient annual average rainfall of 419 millimeters. In this video, we will talk about Reginald Fogarty, a hunter who got lost in Australia's forest. Did he survive, or was he another victim? To know, keep watching the video till the end. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up, share, and subscribe to the channel to see our latest content. Without further ado, let's begin the video. Reginald Fogarty, 62, lived in Australia with his wife, son, and grandchildren. He loved the forest life and enjoyed camping and hunting. That was his recreational time. Over the years, he learned how to survive in secluded areas without basic necessities. In 2015, during the summer, Fogarty decided to plan a trip. He retired from mining and called his brother Ray to join him on a hunting trip in the Great Victoria Desert in Western Australia. Both decided to spend a day in the forest, which meant they didn't need much food or equipment. Fogarty and Ray walked 70 kilometers east of Laverton on Racine Lake Road. From there, Fogarty parted ways with his brother and left the Shooter's Shack campsite on the edge of the Great Victoria Desert, 1,120 kilometers east of Perth. He told Ray that he would return to the camp in a few hours, to which Ray replied that he would wait for him at the camp. Fogarty was armed with a rifle and planned to hunt the feral camels that roam the Australian interior. He left the campsite and walked east of Laverton on Racine Lake Road to hunt animals in the dry, sandy wilderness, wearing only a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. After a few hours, he found a camel. He pointed his rifle at the camel and killed it from a safe distance. He was happy that the job was done. It was time to return to the camp where Ray was waiting for him. But what happened next shocked the world. Ray waited for his brother for several hours, but there were no signs of him. After 24 hours, Ray began to panic. He knew Fogarty was in trouble. He was never late and would always come back on time. Fogarty was lost in a vast Australian desert. It was difficult for Ray to find him alone, so he needed help. Ray quickly got in his car and drove about 170 kilometers to Laverton, the nearest town, to get enough mobile reception to report his brother missing to the police. The police immediately began the search, but Fogarty was nowhere to be found. Police found the carcass of a camel, which ensured that Fogarty was hunting in that area. The carcass was the central point of the police-coordinated land and aerial search. For the next 48 hours, the rescue team searched for him non-stop. With every hour that passed, the fear grew that the trip may have turned into a mishap, leading to a tragedy. The panic was growing by the hour. Fogarty's wife, 41, and son, 12, were scared and didn't want to return home. They wanted to search for him, but the police assured them they would try their best to find Fogarty. A massive search was conducted to track him down, but after 48 hours, his wife, Arlen, and son, Phil, were told to prepare for the bad news. Fogarty had no food and water, and it wasn't easy to survive in such high temperatures. Days passed, but there were no signs of him. His wife, Arlen, began to believe that he was no more and may have become prey to the deadly forest and weather. His family began to mourn for him, as surviving in such harsh circumstances was impossible. More than 40 police and TSA's personnel were involved in the searches. After 6 days, the police considered canceling the search as it was impossible for a human being to survive without food and water. They tried their best and conducted a massive land and air search, but it seemed like Fogarty had disappeared into the forest. The Tactical Response Group Tracker was about to conclude their mission and return when they found footprints. These footprints were 2 or 3 days old. The team members followed the footprints and walked on a dry trail for hours. They thought that maybe they could at least retrieve the body, but what they saw was unbelievable. Fogarty was found 15 kilometers from his campsite, which was in an area roughly 170 kilometers east of Laverton, the nearest town. From afar, it felt like there was a pale body lying under the tree. Nope, he was not dead. Fogarty was lying under a tree and looked extremely pale, tired, and dehydrated. He was looking at the sky and was a bit delusional. He was okay for the first few days, but on day 3, he lost the strength and energy to walk any further. The 62-year-old managed to survive in the jungle, but the last few days were more difficult than one could imagine. He had no food or water, so he decided to lie down under a tree and eat black ants. He had a life experience of hunting and surviving on the most challenging days. He learned ways to survive in different environments. He knew that when there was no food, he could survive by consuming insects. While he was lying down on the ground, he saw ants. He started consuming them because that was the only source to help him live for a few more days. Ants are edible insects and can become part of the emerging trends focused on providing healthier and more sustainable diets. Fogarty considered it a sustainable food source due to its low environmental impact. He knew ants tend to have a high feed conversion efficiency, which refers to an animal's capacity to convert feed mass into increased body mass. Despite being in terrible condition, Fogarty survived. He received treatment and first aid on the ground, and it took him a few hours to sit up and talk again, which was a positive sign. Kalgoorlie Police Superintendent Andy Greatwood said that he had no water whatsoever for 6 days and was extremely dehydrated and a bit delusional when he was first found, but was able to talk after receiving first aid. The police called his wife, Arlen, and gave her the news, to which she began to cry. She was amazed to find her husband alive and was desperate to meet him. After a few days, Fogarty revealed that he thought no one was ever going to find him, and that the ants he relied on tasted quite good after walking around 30 kilometers in the remote desert country in Western Australia's Goldfields region. Speaking about the ordeal for the first time, he said that with no food or water, he took to eating ants for sustenance, consuming 12 the first day and 18 the next. Despite the meager food source, his organs had begun shutting down by the time he was found. Though consuming ants helped him survive a few days, he was still in bad shape without proper food and water. The rescue team thought that he wouldn't be able to survive. When they found him, he was lying motionless under a tree, dehydrated and delusional, using his backpack to rest his head, thanks to an Aboriginal man who helped track him. Fogarty said, "He was not tough, but just lucky. I followed this camel into the bush. I had walked at least 30 kilometers and didn't know where I was. I heard of people dying after 3 days without water. I don't know why I survived." Having followed the camel into the bush, he was left to fend for himself in harsh conditions with no food, water, matches, or a knife. There were no cell phone signals, and he had no other way to tell people he was stuck in the forest. "I didn't think anyone was going to find me, and I had given up. I don't know why I survived." He added that a piece of him wanted to die before being rescued. After doing everything he could to attract the attention of searchers, he accepted his fate and laid down under a tree. "I was thinking of my family who would see me laying there," he said. Western Australia Police earlier shared on their Facebook page, "Our officers complete training to prepare them for weeks like this, and results like today make every second worth it." He didn't have any equipment. It was just the circumstances of how he had gone out taking off after a camel, and then became disoriented and lost. His sister, Christine Ogden, said she was over the moon to hear that her brother had been found. "He's not very well. Obviously, he needs a lot of medical intervention, but it's the best outcome we've had," she said. "My concern was up and down. I'd feel like they'd find him one day, and then they wouldn't find him the next. But I went to bed last night and said to myself they're going to find him today, and they did. His son is overwhelmed. He doesn't know how to respond. It's amazing." Hunter Reginald Fogarty spent nearly a week lost in inhospitable bushland some 170 kilometers northeast of Laverton in Western Australia's Goldfields, without water or food. Surviving experts highlight ants and other insects as possible sources of nutrients. However, it's still extraordinary that Fogarty managed to stay alive for so long in a region where temperatures frequently soar above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The Great Australian Desert is the largest desert in Australia. It has red sand dunes, stony plains, and dry salt lakes, but no permanent surface water according to Australian authorities. That's a wrap for today. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up, share, and subscribe to the channel to see our latest content.